If you played Secret of Evermore, you likely realized that it's full of references to the Western pop culture. And the reason for that is pretty simple, as it is the only title from Square that was developed in North America and was specifically designed to appeal to a Western audience. But it still has notches to other games that were developed in Japan, like Final Fantasy and The Legend of Zelda. And on top of that, there are some interesting facts around its development and some funny Easter eggs. So in this video I will show you every little bit of trivia that I found in and around this amazing RPG, but I'm pretty sure that I missed a lot of stuff, so feel free to tell me and others in the comments below. And if you need a complete guide through the game covering all formulas, charms and secrets, I have a whole series for that on my channel. If you're new here, hey, my name is Toby and I provide tips, tricks and trivia for retro video games, and you can also watch me playing these games live every Sunday. But for now, let's talk about everything that you might have missed in Secret of Evermore, and I will try to categorize my points, so let's start with the title and the intro scene. So you probably know that the title is a reference to Secret of Mana to cash in on its popularity, but you might not know that it wasn't always like that. Instead, the initial working title was Vax and the Mesmers and evolved around a group of magic users, aka the Mesmers, that could transport listeners into some kind of dream world. Then, during one of their so-called sessions, a person named Vax got trapped in one of those dreams and started to corrupt it. Sounds familiar, right? The concept was later changed, but we can still see parallels like getting trapped in a fantasy world while it's being corrupted by someone's presence. The title was also changed to Evermore, and in the end they slapped Secret off in front of it because, like I said, they wanted to have a reference to Secret of Mana. But do you know what they didn't want to have in this game? Naughty words as a name for the protagonist and his dog, and that's why they included a naughty name filter. Kind of. You can still name your characters however you like, but if the game registers a naughty one like F or X, the skeleton in the desert will charge you 3 amulets of annihilation for a white instead of 1 and continuously calls you potty mouth, which I think is hilarious. Now let's have a look at the intro scene. In 1965, one store that is shown on the street is called Smith's Hardware, but in 1995 it's replaced by a new store called Darkhead Software, which is a reference to the game's executive producer Douglas Edwin Smith. Smith also contributed to the localization of Chrono Trigger, for example, but he is best known for being the creator of Lode Runner, a 2D puzzle platformer from 1983, which was the first Western-designed game to become a smash hit in Japan. It's worth checking out if you want to play an old classic. Next, let's look at some characters. In regards to the main protagonist, it's assumed that he is a reference to Marty McFly from Back to the Future. I mean, both characters are traveling through time wearing an orange life preserver, have kind of a nerdy attitude playing in the arcade or watching a lot of movies, and the hairstyle totally checks out. As for his trusty dog, at least his toaster form is directly taken from K9 from Doctor Who, complete with a nose laser. And yes, there really is a burnt toast coming out of the dog's back if you stay idle for long enough. Now, if you look at the game's villain Carltron, however, he was originally programmed to clean Waffleberg's mansion and therefore has a hatred of filth, which also extends to his minions. That's why Horace's evil twin calls Carltron your cleanliness, Camelia's evil twin is disgusted with Ebon Keep because it's dirty, and Carltron himself repeatedly uses filthy as a slur. Furthermore, there is a hidden cameo of Carltron cleaning some wooden crates in the opening scene in Antiquar, and you can trigger it by having 0 bazooka shots left after killing the guard bots at the beginning of the game. It takes some time depleting the 100 shots that you get, but don't worry, you can simply wreck the bots afterwards. I have no idea, however, how using all bazooka shots connects to Carltron cleaning the crates. Maybe they need more ammunition on Omnitopia after you wasted their supply, and so they ordered some from Crustacea. But Carltron, of course, will make sure no dirt from the filthy pirates is carried onto the station. In case of Professor Waffleberg, well, you should have a good idea who was the inspiration for him after watching the new Oppenheimer movie. Speaking about movies, the hero likes to quote fictional movies to show his nerdy attitude at multiple points throughout the game, but at least some of them are based on real titles. For example, Mars Needs Lumberjacks is a reference to Mars Needs Women, and It Came from the Swamp is a reference to It Came from Outer Space. The repeated wax on, wax off quote from that one cleaning robot in Omnitopia is a reference to Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi wants Daniel to clean and wax cars to improve his blocking technique.
Wax on, wax off. Don't forget to breathe. Very important.
And the letter R in the name Carltron is probably a reference to the movie Tron, a science fiction action-adventure where a video game developer is transported and trapped inside the software world of a mainframe computer. Why does that sound familiar somehow? However, there are not only movie references in the game, but also references to Final Fantasy, starting with the Chocobo egg that you can get as a charm, to the characters Locke, Mok, Relm, Strago, Terra and Umaro from Final Fantasy VI, which are sitting in the crowd during the Colosseum fight, to Cecil from Final Fantasy IV running an armory in Ebon Keep. But I also recently learned that there is a Zelda reference in Prehistoria. When you first meet Blimp in the swamp, he gives you a mud pepper, but before that he pulls out 3 other items from his fish bag. Those are a rupee, a key and a heart, which are all items you gather in every Zelda game that was and will be created. A really nice touch in my opinion. In addition, you meet a boy in Fire Ice Village who has a little bee named Buzz following him, which is a reference to the bee that goes by the same name in the game Earthbound. And if I ever get my hands on a copy of that game and play it, I will tell you if there's more. Now let's look at some bosses. I think that bosses in games are always interesting to look at because the developers spent a lot of time on their design. And the first boss in Secret of Evermore, a giant bug called Thwax, even made it onto the front cover. Now, in terms of its design, I think it resembles a special and extinct class of arthropods, the Thylacocephala, and I apologize for butchering that name. They typically have a shield-like carapace encompassing the whole body, with large bulbous eyes, pairs of reptilian limbs, and an additional battery of smaller limbs on the abdomen. Their existence was erected during the 80s, and they really look frightening and alien if you imagine one at bigger sizes. So it's not surprising that a game developer during that time was inspired by their appearance and created something like this. But there are also other bosses who are worthy of a second look. For example, the boss that you must defeat to go from Antiqua to Gothica is called Aquagoth, which is a combination of the names of both timelines. Aqua from Antiqua and Goth from Gothica. In addition, Aqua is the Latin word for water, which is kind of fitting since it just looks like a kraken. Then there is the Verminator, a big rat guarding the entrance to Ebon Keep, which is obviously a combination of the word vermin and Terminator. And here is a little fun fact. You can skip this boss fight by entering Ebon Keep but not going to the castle. Instead, go back to the Dark Forest and backtrack all the way to the chessboard, where the east bridge will now be lowered, taking you directly to the inside of the castle from the other side. Although it will likely result in your character getting stuck in its crates when you enter his room from the backside. Another interesting boss in my opinion is Mangala alongside his 2 puppets Mephisto and Old Nick, especially because of the creepy show that you can watch in Ivor Tower, where Mangala is hiding behind a bookshelf, and his early introduction in the Freak Show. I tried to find some additional infos about this boss, but I really couldn't, so if anyone knows more, I would really appreciate a comment down below. But do you know what I also wondered while playing this game as a kid? The reason why Omnitopia is depicted as a proper space station in some artwork, including the instruction manual, but only appears as some kind of moon colony in the actual game. I recently read in an interview that a lot of content had to be cut, so I guess in the end, the station had to be downgraded to the simple moon colony that we know now. Furthermore, because of further time and/or storage constraints, more content had to be left out as well, leading to the 2 lone islands on the overworld that look like something surely should be on here. Finally, if you wait several minutes after the end in the credits, an additional scene is shown where Professor Waffleberg talks to a now docile and tamed Carlton. But after the professor leaves, the robot turns to the camera with a teasing "the end". After waiting another 30 minutes, an additional message appears complimenting your patience and with a cryptic credit that reads "Dolly Grip, Brian Fedrau", a joke credit to the lead programmer. And to top it off, there is a third hidden message after that, which just says it's Bill's fault, an inside joke regarding Bill Christiansen, who allegedly had a particular habit of being at fault when a build of the game was busted. In the end, it's always good to know who's at fault. And that's it for this episode. Now, as I said, if you know anything about this game that I missed or that might be interesting, tell me and others in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this, and please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to see a full guide through this awesome game, I have it on my channel, link is in the description. And always remember that this is to be continued.